So I will set up that. Maybe I might check in.
Started in about 5 minutes. Service, let them in
Take a picture.
Yeah. And that's some of the thinking that we've been doing, starting off slow with the family project, like seeing how they Tiana is Mercedes. Who's coming over here for the panel, and she was with Nazira and the lady up there. They were doing the panel, and I met Tiana at it.
Yes, this one on.
Wow. You would be able to be in like that. Well, I think there is
I know. We actually have a time segment with each other and a timeline.
like very
I don't think I've ever met him.
With the drama, like this was it the other day. He has like a this is him. He's wearing a Bud Light. Wow, you're about to see. And I was like, make your best Bud Light every day. Kid has like a running. This is his favorite thing. So you got trick or treat.
Just to connect. I remember the last week.
See that baby loves my hair.
It's really awesome.
He calls it like your baby.
Looks like we put in the chat. Chat.
You already.
I typed in here. I have a YouTube subscriber. Yeah.
But it's also funny. You know, like the he has finally capitulated watching. Even though it's like less than
No. It's
yeah. I heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did hear that. Yeah. We have a couple actually. NASPA. So there is a couple first years ago, I actually were part of this national NASPA.
We should ask when we talk to
we have like, not really. But then a few weeks later, I got an email from her. She's like, this is here. Like, we met, and I was like, live in Boston, like, you know, I'd love to meet up sometime, sort of thing. And I'm like, not weird at all. Like, I was before. So we met up for dinner, and then we ended up becoming friends, right? So we, and then like eventually, you know, I met her husband, we became a couple friends. Then, after and then about 4 or 5 months later, she got pregnant. So they have a kid who's like 5 months younger. So they basically like grew up together. So there are Thanksgiving family. So we do Thanksgiving with them. Every year. I think it's always and a lot of times their families come into town. They're on the show. We usually get that because so it's like we have birds in India. Probably on their house. Yeah, it'll be nice. Yeah, not.
One of the things I was thinking was we could get, even if we're interviewing them individually, but to have when it was in a group,
We've been able to put together so regardless of whether it's fine or not, so, you know, my his family. Yeah. It's really difficult. We make a weird. Like, usually not. Or it's never. So we just kind of like over the places where they are in the ship.
I saw people saying,
That bowl, I don't know if anybody said the food was really good. It was like, oh, I'll stop eating steak. So I'm like, just kidding, I'm gonna eat it. It's very delicious. Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Well, we have this. These are my students. These are my student equipment.
Like,
So,
I gotta bring up my
turn it on and then turn it on. Because this one will be kind of echoey because it's live, but the other one will not. Where are you going to be sitting? You're going to be sitting at school? Yeah, you're great. All right, good. So you're live.
Yeah, I feel really. It feels like you need a hat. Yes,
Hi, folks. Welcome. We're going to get started. Before we get started with the Community University panel, I just want to give a big thank you to Northeastern, Becca, and Chelsea and team for helping us organize this, and internally to Lauren, who has done all the logistical work, the food, and everything like that. So we just give it up. Chelsea asked, what time is it? I was like, I don't know, Lauren knows all the details. Like, I showed up. Thank you to both of you for all the hard work that you put into it. So like I shared earlier, we are trying to do things a little bit differently this cycle. This is the second offering of our Carnegie in Action series, where we connect the training that we usually do around the application with actually real life examples of university community partnerships, and bringing people together to talk about the possibilities and the problematics of that. So we hope that this will help inform and help you think about the ways that these partnerships are central to the applications you're putting together, and then also be able to share with colleagues in the field examples of best practices, ways of improving practice, and also opportunities for further connection. So thank you all for coming. This has been a pilot for us, and we're really excited about this opportunity and being able to connect people. So we've got this really great panel, and I don't know if this table is like blocking your view, if we should move that, or are you guys okay? Is everybody great? So we'll get started off. I have a few questions, and then we'll open it up to you all. But first, we're going to start with folks introducing themselves. So, Marlon, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, and besides the like amazing tech skills that you're so happy to have tonight? Keep me a mic.
So my name is Marlon Solomon. I'm the founder of the African American Academy Culture Initiative. We're a Boston-based nonprofit. Our mission is to build cultural bridges in African diaspora through education, technology, and travel. So I'm an engineer by training, and I designed this academy that aids multicultural youth in project management and cultural diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'm working with we've been there for about 2 years now, and using better students, which one is here, to research and develop projects, curriculum around.
I'm Cynthia Wilkerson. I'm the program director at Little Brothers Pencil Dudley, and we have been working in Boston since 1979. We're actually part of an international organization that has a presence throughout Europe and has several chapters in the US and Canada. The Boston chapter in the last several years has shifted our work to really focus on intergenerational engagement. Our mission is to help alleviate and prevent social isolation and loneliness among adults. But as you may be aware, in the midst of the pandemic, social isolation and loneliness is not meaningful for adults. In fact, people in their 20s have the highest rate of self-defined levels of loneliness. So we, since 2015, have focused on working primarily with and engagement programs to bring intergenerational programming to public housing all over the city, as well as senior centers.
Hi, my name is John. I'm a co-faculty member at Northeastern University in Cultural Engineering. I also teach project management, and I got involved in service learning. Not just at the time, we were in meetings, fellowship programs. I wanted to find a way of my students to try to get some sort of experience. Most of my students are international, India and China. They want jobs here in the US. One great way to try to get students to experience in even workplace, but also come back to areas in Boston and home. And that's how it started. And I was hoping just to get one company to work harder to work with. And now this semester, I think we're working with 7 different organizations. Marlon and I have been working for 2 years. It's project-based. We don't really know students with what's scientifically behind the scenes. Scientific research from Harlan, say pamphlets, we train people. People on how to use technology in another organization, but it's been a really rewarding experience, and I've learned so much in the fellowship program about how to interact between partners. It's not us helping them, vice versa. We're really partners and all learn. That's what I learned. Well, that's what I learned.
Hi everyone, I know I introduced myself a little bit earlier when we were out on the community walk. My name is Becca Berkey, and I'm at Northeastern. I wear a few different hats there, and here I will represent 2 of those hats, one being overseeing community engaged teaching and research, which I've been doing at the university for the 2nd academic year. So I've been here a while now. And I live in Boston, And yeah, I've really kind of embraced this as my home. And then I also teach a class that's associated with our our human services program and environmental studies program. I'm an environmental sociologist by academic training, and so I teach a class around food justice and community development. And in that class, work with community partners, as you can imagine, wanting to and getting the opportunity to, from that faculty perspective, experience some of the infrastructure that we offer to faculty, thinking about ways that we're working with partners, and just in general, it's part of my ethos as an educator, as a researcher, to be working with community partners. So yeah, I'm really excited to be here tonight, and really excited to get the opportunity to hear more from people who have become dear friends of mine over all of these years that I have worked at Northeastern. Had the great fortune to learn alongside them as we engage in those conversations. So thanks everyone for being here. It's really an honor to be able to host this thing.
So the first question is for Marlon and Cynthia. If you can talk to us a little bit about why University Community Engagement Service Learning supports your organization and its relationships there.
Well, thank you once again for having us here. What this partnership is very important to what we've been doing at the organization, because our work started when we realized that there was an issue with whether it's engineering or any kind of research in community neighborhood organizations in our community are trying to combat whatever issue they're fighting with the EPA or whatever, and there was no local expertise. And so what it ended up falling on, people that are tired, people that don't have the time or whatever. So there's a lot of stress on them to get some information that they needed to further community goals. So that's what the Boston development, Boston Planning and Development Agency. So let's say they're fighting, so it started out with a Burger King that was placed across from my school, and the community wanted to go to court, and they were trying to fight having this Burger King put next to their school, and then I did some research on proximity and some other things, and that showed, and that was the first project we did with John, and that started showing that there was actually a need for research and development in certain project areas, especially around, specialized areas like engineering or planning and approval. So students, it's been an invaluable resource, really kind of being a research engine for things that I'm interested in learning about. Maybe I studied primarily redlining, and how the city of Boston is designed around these racial constructs, and we're actually in the heart of the red line right now in Dudley. And so I study things like what are the effects of moving orange line from here down the street, and the atrophy cut off. This is the elbow, this is the shoulder of anything going down that here. This not being connected to the city of Boston killed everything downstream. What does that mean? What are they looking at? These are it's so important. And we've done some great projects with community benefit agreement, modeled after the project they did in Somerville when they extended green line. We've done some great work, and so it's so important because, like I said, it provides this research engine that the community actually needs. The bureaucratic, system cannot move fast enough. There's a 33-year life expectancy difference between here and back bay, and that is just due to a hunger and different myriad of cultural and economic issues, but also infrastructural. And what does that bring out? So that's what they've been working on. Maswanti is one of the students that we're working on the Boston Red Line 85. Which is a campaign that is, so the Boston Red Line map was issued February 1st, 1938. So 85 years will be February 1st next year. And they're working on a campaign to educate the community, Northeastern as well, and about what could be done and what should be done. That's how it went. So the relationship with them was just they were so helpful. They're supportive. Chelsea as well. Everybody's just a good team. I've been really honored, and I think that is that I know good friend here, John, will like to be their part of the team.
I also want to say thank you for inviting me to be part of the conversation. Thank you for your time this evening. I am really evangelical about this. It is such an incredibly rich opportunity for collaboration. I think that community organizations can benefit in so many ways. And I think it is a way to do justice. I think it is a way to start to move assets into the community. It doesn't undo the injustice, but it does start to move assets into communities. We have built a program on service delivery, and I started at LBFE in 2015, and sort of inherited a couple of service learning students, and I was getting emails saying, checking in, how are they doing? They're going every week. I don't have no idea. I guess they're great. I don't know what you're talking about. But I ended up going to, at the time the service learning had an in-person service expo at the end of the semester, and I went, and the first time I met these two students who had been working, ostensibly with me for months, and saw what they'd actually been doing in a senior building in Jamaica Plain, and I realized, oh, there's a program here. We could do something. Look, this is amazing. These two young, committed people made something happen with virtually no support from their community partner, but they did it. And so that was April, and in May I met with Becca and her colleague Hillary Solomon in the program, service program, and said, "So can we do more with you?" And we said yes, and so we did. And now we have worked. We work with so many service learning programs, classes, project-based classes. We are able to, in a city that is which is majority minority city, in a city where older adults have a very high rate of being born, in a city where older adults, high percentage of older adults speak English as a second or third language. We're able to offer multilingual, multicultural, intergenerational programming all over the city, and it is really because of our relationship with Northeastern Service Program and then budgeted by our many other relationships with other colleges. But it's how we do what we do.
So I guess for John and Becca, for you, what was this partnership meant for you in terms of teaching, scholarship, service?
It's actually a good question.
I always agree.
No, that's all right. When I started working for the fellowship program, I started a very transactional relationship. That is, I want my students to get some school experience, I want them to find co-ops and jobs, I want them to do something. And over time, and reading the fellowship, learning all sorts of learning, it has changed for a transactional relationship to much more of a transformational. Of having a school semester, I don't want it to be semester. I want it to be a long-term relationship like Marlon and I have with tutors. And to see it grow, see it change. And I use the readings I've done and my relationship with Marlon and other community partners to teach my students that what we're trying to do is we want project management to be successful. You have a lot of transferable soft skills. You need to fix skills. You have to do those soft skills, and it's a community relationship, and you can have a better overall project. Same thing with certain learning. I want to make sure is that the students, the skills that they're learning in this community partnership can be transferred over to their career. And what I want them to think for their career is not a transaction, but a transformation. Making a transformation relationships throughout the career program. That's what's changed for me personally.
Next, can you talk a little bit about the fellowship program then?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So we have, and it's taking different forms. It's in its newest iteration, I guess, but I hear long. It used to be called Service Learning Fellows Program, and now it's a Community Teaching Fellowship Program. We're really, and we have a number of different forms of kind of, working with faculty. A school like Northeastern, I don't know how much any of you know about Northeastern, but it's very highly built around experiential education. So, if somebody wants to integrate a way for their students to get experience into a class, community engagement is the only way, right? Like there are a lot of other options. But when we meet with somebody like John, and we hear like, hey, this might be a good way of my students getting experience, but we see that like spark of, and I also think they have something really valuable to contribute to their communities, and like that might not exactly be like language. I don't even know how to do the probing and getting in there with folks. So the program is really, it's interdisciplinary. I think the cohort John was in had a philosopher in it, a music faculty member, a writing person, an economist, like all different sorts of folks kind of coming together and beginning to kind of interrogate not just like, what are we doing with our students and what are our students getting out of this, but like what sorts of things can really do with our communities. So that's that program. I'm happy to share any material. Like we are not proprietary brand. So like we will share. We are sharers, maybe oversharers sometimes. But to Marisol's original question as well about what I've learned from these folks, I'll put on two different hats quickly. One is my hat as a faculty member teaching a food justice and community development course where Marlon was one of my community partners for the class. And my students had an amazing experience with Marlon. Like they'd be like, we thought we were gonna be for like 45 minutes, and we like happily met with him for like 2 hours. And we like, that was fascinating person, but yeah, no, but happily is the good part of that. Yeah. But one of the things that I think for me as an educator, that was, and somebody who's been in this field a long time now, that Marlon reflected back to me, and I don't even know if you remember saying this, but as we were debriefing at the end of the term, it was a summer class. Marlon was saying, he's like, I've worked with so many amazing students through John and like other, this was like his first opportunity to work with Northeastern students who reflected a similar identity background, so who had come from, if not from Boston, were people of color from urban environments in the US, from, the Bronx, or, and had dealt with some of these issues that folks, that they were looking at, right, from a justice or security perspective. And that like, and again, it was like, for me, that was such an interesting, it was an interesting thing to hear, yes, the faculty member, but with my administrator hat on, to think about what are the ways and how are we connecting people across different identity backgrounds and really preparing them for that work, but also finding those purposeful connections where it's like, you have like a commonality and something that is going to help you go deeper quicker, which again was something, my class was a summer class, so like you got 7 weeks to go deep with somebody, right? Like it's not a lot of time. So that was an important moment. And I think one thing I've learned from Cynthia, more with my administrator hat on, and continuing to wear that, is like the importance and the value of the longevity of relationships, right? And John and I were having this conversation for dinner, but it's like I had been in several other institutions before coming to Northeastern, maybe for 2-3 years. I think I had good relationships with the community, but to see the beauty of what can happen over many, many years of working together and the different iterations that we have, and the other thing that I learned from Cynthia is the interrogation for many folks in our community partner organizations of like, and if I haven't only heard this from Cynthia, but I think it really resonates with me when I hear it from any community partner, is as with my hat on as a community partner who's working with your students, I love your university. As a person who lives in maybe one of the neighborhoods surrounding campus or whatever, I have, some deeper feelings that maybe move beyond just love for the university. And so being able to, in a similar way to where it's like, I feel like I'm obviously engaged with the university because I live there, but also like really feel deeply and passionately about the students that are based in our communities. And so I think for all of us, that many of us span these dual worlds, and despite that, like we can do good work together. So that is the learning from these two very individuals.
Well, that's awesome because you set me up for my next one.
I love it. I'm just throwing it your way.
So, some of the things that we talk about, at least we're starting to talk about in the field, is this reputation of harm, right? What is the institution's reputation of harm in the community and how it's addressing it? So each of you can speak to sort of what that looks like in response to research, the other colleges and universities in Boston areas, it's so heavily populated by higher education institutions. What kind of reputational harm those institutions have, and how, or if, are they want to address that?
Like Marlon.
On Halloween,
Where are we going with this?
We're
It's
gonna
like
start
a comfortable in this area.
It's gonna be a good
I
one.
took my class when I wanted to go. We did a community walk and we what area of Boston went to my state. But we talked about all the beauty of Boston. I did several walks there, here's Boston, and there's a lot there talking about the mural of Martin Luther King, which we never thought about. We went to Fitzgerald's park. Michigan, thank you. It's where a lot of our students go. So a lot of my students are Northeastern, live on Michigan. The problem with that is that's great. You may say it's cheaper rent than come down here, but you're pushing out the people that live here a long time, and you're increasing, the rents, and you're pushing more the gentrification. And that got me to think, well, here are my students in India, going on these walks, worried about that, looking at the beauty of the Boston and what you bring. And then you start thinking about, okay, what can we do differently? And one person said, well, what can we do? Like, how do we stop it? I don't know what to do. All I know is being made more aware of the situation. That's why I felt so great looking at different communities and going to the walk, learning about what Boston can bring and the background, and then telling people what do we do in the project. You need to know what your community is, whether it works, your department, where you are, because then you can have a better process. That said, just knowledge, powerful. I don't know what else that affirmation yet, but is everyone from Boston? Everyone? Northeastern University is huge. It goes all the way from that bay all the way over to here, and then you get Roxbury, and then we have where you take a huge footprint. And which is great. We're sharing knowledge, and they're pushing other people out and around. I don't know the answer to your question, I'll know it is an issue. And we just try to talk about it more, maybe something done to have that right control.
I have a story. I was in a building in the north end, public housing. This comment wasn't directed specifically to Northeastern or higher ed in general, but to certification and displacement. an older adult said, the building had connectivity issues, the older adult said, they, these people out here, they take it all and we can't get it. The internet and access, we can't get it in here. They use it all up. And then another older adult who was in the depths of lockdown would run out of credit on her phone, so tried to reach her. Of course, at a time she didn't have any credit level. Said in a conversation about digital access and everything, I don't have internet access. Walk down the street, Northeastern, I walk down the street, they have in that building, I can't move it. Yeah. And in the depths of a lockdown, knowing the resources right there in my neighborhood, in my community, it's right there, they won't let me in. Now, might they let you in? Possibly, but obviously that has not been communicated. And I understand that universities cannot be entirely permeable bodies, but the resources can be better distributed.
Repetition of harm. Well, my field is easy because of studying was cultural, African American cultural site right here. That's why this is an experiment, because this is a traditional place that African Americans have always been. I always make the joke, see the people, over there selling cigarettes, whatever they're doing. They've been here for generations. This is part of the culture in this area as well as down there. So the reputation, of course, is because of the gentrification of West End and the urban renewal days. So in fact, I'm part of my Red Line campaign, and that has a lot to do with trying to translate these stories. And that's how I think we're getting our point across. So across the street is Slade's. I don't know if you know, there's a restaurant there, Slade's. Slade's was owned by Bill Russell. Bill Russell was a civil rights leader at the time, fighting the city gentrification of that area. So we're talking about his story as a civil rights leader. That was actually headquarters. It was like a place where we Stevie Wonder, all the people that used to use music to raise money for the civil rights movement, they're there. Any kind of civil rights leader from Muhammad Ali to Martin Luther King, everybody was at Slade's because that was the center of this whole area, which was at that time predominantly African American, dating back to the 1930s or 1920s. So that's the reputation. Now we are part of our data collection. Part of what we're doing is to find ways, safe spaces that we can have these conversations where the healing can begin, and where we can start looking at. Because I always tell my kids that most young people don't care about what their parents say, so they don't really care about what happened to their great grandparents, right? So the idea is not really to shame or blame, but we have to look at that map, because that map is where everything started. That's why there's more T stops in Brookline and Milton and Cambridge than actually Boston itself. Most of the tea does not exist in Boston, right? But we see it every day, but we don't understand the effects that access to tea means. When you start looking at how it was designed, and you look at the 16th century, whether it was like the 17th, 18th, 19th, see how the centuries going up, people were building others, it's pretty easy to see. Boston is designed to cater to Milton, Brookline, and that's what it's designed to do. Primarily Brookline and Milton. Those are the primary areas that Boston is made to serve. Infrastructurally, it's part of Boston. As I said, it has the most T stops, but it's not considered part of Boston. And those little things form the relationship, form the overall attitude. I think it's very difficult for an organization like Northeastern to separate itself in that history and still have the gravitas and still have the connection. Is it going to be easy? Of course not. We have a lot of undoing to do because people signed that 85 years ago, you know. But the fact is that the predominantly Jewish and African American areas still don't have any T-cells all the way down here up to today. And not only that, it's been moved. The city was designed around Boston then, so this used to connect into Boston directly to Washington Street. So that's why the city comes to this big Washington Street. You know, so you have, if you don't know that, then you're designing in silos, right? And you're not really looking at I say the foundation of also the system. You can't gerrymander without having everybody already collected in one place. It is how apartheid was defined. This was an issue. Now, those stories, I talked to the prisoner owned slaves. They know the people that talk to us. They're part of the community, you know, and there's a history. They're dying to tell. But this history is not told. They're going to help us document some of this history. And then we find people for individuals. Because I think it's just something where we have to just, like I said, start a safe space. That's the most, like, I don't know how it's gonna end up, but let's start the safe space where we can talk. And I think through this program that we're doing as an opportunity to, address. And the kids are very, very eager to try and, kind of feel kind of culpable in a way. When we go to Northeastern, which did, we're here to solve the problem.
And then I guess I would say to this question, kind of drawing a through line to something I think that is part of the story each of you told, which is like Boston is not that big geographically, like square mileage wise. We're talking like not a big place, and institutions of higher education take up a lot of space, right? And something that I grapple with a lot, because we're hearing these boundaries, we're hearing like we're in places like in Cynthia's script, like Russell, the major T stop runs through the middle of our campus, right? And so people, it's thoroughfare, right? But there is this like you will talk to people who live like right there, and they're like, I don't feel like I can walk across the campus. It's like, well, that's cutting you off from like getting to the other side of what you need to do, vice versa. So one of the things that like I mean, and I think Boston is an interesting place to do this work, for this reason. More is like if the public purpose of higher education were actually being realized, like this should be the city, right? Like if we thought like knowledge capital were the only sort of capital that can actually solve problems in this world, we've got it in droves here, right? It is fully saturated. That is not what this is, right? And so I think for me, it keeps being really humble and really honest about, like how much institutions of higher education can really make up for the space that they take up through the sort of work that like a team like mine does, right? And I think it is about building those relationships and creating those spaces like you're talking about, making folks more aware so that when those opportunities to problematize those relationships and the impact on them or are present and the impact of that there are more people equipped to jump into the conversation, right? So again, just trying to through line so many things that were shared. I agree with everything that was shared. And again, if we were doing this and we were doing it right, there'd be no problem. Right? We've got enough minds in this place to be solving these problems, but I don't think we recognize and value, because it has different structures associated with it, the expertise and the knowledge that our communities and our community partners bring to the table. And so that's a big piece of the philosophy of what my team is trying to work with faculty across the institution to do, is to really say, like, yeah, you have a skill set, other people have skill sets, like, you're not going to tell anybody something they don't already know. about their own community, right? And so how do you then learn with, alongside, and elevate that work, that knowledge, that expertise? And it takes a lot of learning and people have learned together. So just yes, it's basically what everybody's doing.
And so for all, how do you manage the power dynamic? Right? What are things that you put in place? Red lights and green lights,
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll start from like a high level. I think that, I mean, this is something we're continually examining. So my team has done some work over the last couple of years with a team we met through kind of a professional development space originally from Huntington University in the UK, really looking at, and John was alluding to, you know, the transformational relationship evaluation scale and some of the work that is done by the group working on the SOAR thing people are probably familiar with. But we've been really looking at our processes and our procedures, and like they really have been set up, honestly, to support transactional relationships. Like it's much easier to say, what do you want to do and what do you need, and like navigate from there. And so something that we're constantly pushing ourselves to do, and again, I'm not speaking for the whole university, I'm speaking for my team at the university, but that's our stuff here, right? But you know, constantly trying to evaluate and examine that dynamic and bring it closer to the co-creative space that we really want it to be. And we always lead first with like, this is what our university wants to do. No matter how genuine those relationships become, it's never a benefit, right? And so just over time, looking at those infrastructures, those practices, the ways that we form partnerships, the ways that we support partnerships, and the ways that we value and steward those as we pass them on to folks like John. You know, to really say, like, there is something that we beautiful precious about this, and really trying to engender that and carry that, and hold that as a team in a container that hopefully we're creating, that we need people in if we're going to trust them with the relationships that we have and the important work that all of these partner organizations are doing.
What I would add is vocabulary. I keep my vocabulary up. So it's an expert assistant group. I say we're partnering. Even when I talk to my students in my class, I talk about partner with you when you're looking for a co-op, or partner with you to come up with a search term. We're here to partner with a communication service learning groups, organizations, to learn what they're looking for and figure out there's a way for us to come together in a win-win situation. Let's be honest, students there want to get cleared for their resumes, and partners want some help to assistance or to figure out ways to either they don't have the skill set or they just don't have the bandwidth, they don't, whatever it is, there's a gap that's needed. And between the two organizations, we can fill that gap. But when I first started, my goal was just to connect with people and not thinking long term. Now when I talk to partners, can I have a big long-term partnership, even though my students are short-term? I look at it as long-term engagement, and that's what I can get. I can't make change really at the university level. I don't have that about. All I can do is influence my students. The students in college being partners, they don't like when you come across another situation. Think about what you learned in this partnership differently. What worked well, how to do that? If it didn't work well, minimize that. And just really think about your time during these projects. The students that actually come back to me and said that the community partnership they had was very, it helped out with their full-time search. But they talk about that, and I talked with students, big grid of things. love the emotions that happen. And so they look great experience, they talk about that, and the look of like big smile and joy, it had an impact. Positive. That's what I can do. That much.
No, there's something to be said for transactional relationships. We work with so many different colleges, universities, service, engagement, and professors and faculty and instructors and internship programs that are just getting started. And we did a work with the instructor at Mass Art who said commercial illustration course, and students gave programs illustrated that we were able to use some of those illustrations in some of our materials. So we need a steady stream of young people in our programs, and so we have that in these different relationships. And I think that our relationship with Northeastern is. Thinking about this last night, just about questions and things. But it's not a partnership. It is a it is a collaboration. It is a co-generation. It is co. That's what our stuff. I feel like we have partners. They may not be able to affect the change, but they will hear it. They will hear the request. They will hear it, and they will do what is in their power, their circle. But I think that wholeness, that's a unique part of our relationship and our what we're able to do together as community members.
I work with Northeastern, the city of Boston. Part of me came out of working with Becca's team, and like I said, looking for more students of color when I started integrating my Boston public school kids in this program. Not the young ones, obviously. I guess I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's Corey related or everything that you have to do. So, but I do have students that are in college that from my program. We work with them on that. So balancing part of the big city, Northeastern, and then Boston public school kids. So all my students, most of the school kids get paid, and that's why I'm doing to get personal. But yeah, they get paid for my, to work on these projects, and I just try to make sure everybody has a safe space to talk. And try to encourage that everybody feels like they have we allot time and you can ask if you don't want to talk. So that's everybody feels like I just want to talk for everybody. The idea is like if everybody shares enough art and I make it lesson, everybody starts seeing similarities, differences, and I transfer that out with Becca and John, and I say exactly what I feel or whatever. And we've done many tinkers and many changes to the program, John and I, as we've been progressing together. And I think we're giving the students a much better product than we're getting with the beginning. I've gotten better, working with them. I do think that, there was a time where we really wanted to go across different disciplines because, you have a project sometimes it's not in one discipline, right? And so many other interchangeable parts. So how do we talk to the other parts and departments? And that's how that became on the word. So that's been helpful. But overall, yeah, I think that the most important thing is just to be here to share with you guys. Let you guys know what I'm not super tired to do, but I do have a very good pulse on what's going on in the community. I work with community organizations, and I I can tell that people are happy that Northeastern is doing it, they're supporting it. And we see progress, and it's been pretty rapid actually. In the last, we've gone soon that we needed, and ever since the pandemic ended, it just been a whole different story for us. And it's because of the research that we did 2 years ago, and we're just building more and more. So it sounds like, oh my God, are you guys doing all this stuff? Because we started 2 years ago. We started off with mapping out the infrastructure of some of the buildings that we have in these going through areas, the stores, or the kind of food stores they have, the size of the stores they have, and those little dynamics that you. So and another thing is data driven. You understand this is data. It's not just talking. And these young people, it doesn't take brain science to figure out these little parts. That's hard, what they're learning. The hardest part that they're learning is how to communicate it in a more artistic way, out of engineering mode. So, the power dynamics are there. I know that the history of what we studied, we study infrastructure for second history. And it's a touchy subject. There's a lot of families and people invested in hurtful stuff. So it's a big landmine. You have to be very careful. But I just try to establish a safe space so everybody can communicate. Everybody feels included. Everybody feels like that they're part of a community. And it starts with building a community. That's what we've been building in Northeastern. Like I said, is my research would be nowhere. Zero. Without what's there to help me multiply our efforts.
So I'm just going to open it up for anything else to see if you all have any questions for our panelists before we close here in about 10 minutes. Yeah.
So I hyper-focused on one thing that you said, and that was that you can't change what the person is doing, but you can change what you're doing in your space. So what's the relationship of what you're doing, what is the relationship with the university, and what do they think about what you're doing? How do you translate what you're doing into academia? We're a medical center, and engineering translation of what you're doing is kind of similar to us. That's just the way doctors and such things. So how do you navigate between the university administration that can be very transactional and community not necessarily? How much time do you have? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question completely. I think how I do this personally and the sort of culture we try to build on our team and with our partners is, really holding true and strong to doing things the way that we want to be doing them, despite the fact that it may not be reflected in the way that the person is, right? And so part of it is really sticking steadfastly to, Northeastern, I feel like every university is listening to a certain extent where it's innovation, and you're like, can we I don't know, figure out if we even built this correctly before we try to start flying another one, right? And so, but not that we're not beholden to that dynamic, but to say we want to build buffers into the work that we're doing so that we're not constantly shifting focus or shifting, and there can be a trade-off with that, right? That can be, maybe we're not the brightest shining thing necessarily in the eyes of the administration. And much to the chagrin sometimes of folks that are on the advisory board or that sort of thing, they might be well, I think you should be trying to get more attention for the work that you're doing or get, and I'm I would rather not, because not being on certain radar screens actually helps us do this work the way that we want to. That said, I think that part of what underlies your question is something that we hear from partners a lot, which I really hard thing to sit with, right? Again, you guys said it, you need to do both. And I think that, you know, for us, it's always been being really transparent about, Cynthia used the word spheres of influence earlier. It's been being really transparent about what our spheres of influence are, right? And so I think that it's, you know, as she was saying, like, we will hear anything, and if it's like, you know, I hear you, but that's like not something that we can do anything about. You know, not saying we're gonna do something about it, like just being really upfront about that. And you know, acknowledging and honoring, you know, that piece of like, I don't trust them, but also saying like, I want you to know that I am part of that, you know, and so like, I think it's like complicating it further, right? So at the end of the day, we have moved reporting structures. The team that I oversee, you know, we used to report up through a unit that's called City and Community Engagement, which reported up through our general counsel. Now we report up through our office of the chancellor. And so, you know, winds change, reporting structures change, but, and I don't know if this is true or not, so you can tell me, check me before I wreck me. But I don't think that those changes, which have affected us profoundly, have affected our relationships in the ways that we support our work. You know, and so part of it really has been like very steadfastly like building those buffer zones and taking the flow in some way so that the people that you're you know trying to support in doing this important work don't necessarily have to bear that. So, and then it's complicated by other things, like we have institutional master planning processes, you know, that we have to go up in front of the Boston Planning Development Agency that Marlon was talking about earlier, to build buildings in the campus, and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And, you know, you're brought into that work sometimes in a way that I know is very performative. Like they're like, oh, kind of dust these folks off, and like they can talk about the good work we're doing, and we're like, we know you're going to use that to leverage your agenda, right? To build the buildings you want to build, to do what you want to do. And so, yeah, like sitting with that tension is really hard. So I don't have any answers to this very hard, but those are the thoughts that bring us to forming, I guess.
Two questions. Northeastern has 16 staff.
That's a good question. We're kind of in different places. So like the community engaged teaching research team, the team that I oversee, there are 4 of us. There is a community service and civic engagement team that does multiple curricular service that we probably have 6 or 7 people. And then there is still an entity called City and Community Engagement. They're much more focused on city work at this point and like the city politics. And I think they probably have 100. So probably all told we have that many, but we're not like together.
And the question there was, of those people in various areas, how many of them are full-time faculty?
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah.
And the other question is, you've got a community partner. They want to do this. Let's say I'm a sociologist and I study housing. How do you get the faculty board to weigh what they're doing in that semester with this service oriented project that's available and do the work that's involved to teach it, oversee it, maintain the connections and so forth?
Yeah, so part of it is like the onboarding process. So part of what we've done over time is we've created like an interactive module that any faculty member, like so in that case, if a faculty member was like, I think I want to do this, we'd be like, go through this, and it really talks about our philosophy and the sort of work that we do. We do offer some, different, there's the year-long programs, and there's some like lower, the normal things people do, workshops, this and that. I would say my bigger answer to your question is something that I think is at least at the scale we operate at pretty unique to our program, which is we have an a teaching assistant. And so we actually train, support, and oversee throughout the course of the semester teaching assistants that are working alongside faculty like the one that you mentioned. They're trained first and foremost in kind of the project management of, just like making it happen. We work with a lot of TAs.
We just service learning.
Yeah, but then more than that, we train them around leading reflection, how to prepare students to engage with the community, how to do community, like anti-racist community engagement. So we're training them around those things to work alongside the faculty. And then we have Chelsea, who was here earlier, who helped set all of this up. She's really our partnerships specialist, and so we do have a formal process of like, what do you want to do as a sociology faculty member? What is our community looking to do? But she is like constantly like having conversations with partners, with faculty, and trying to see those relationships earlier rather than later, so that some of that negotiation, if you will, can happen earlier on, so that fit can be an authentic one, and not like a prejudice or thing. So those are some of the infrastructural elements we have in place to support.
Is there a third question? I don't need to pause. Is there a service learning requirement, like a distribution requirement at Northeastern?
No. All students have to complete something as part of their, it's called UCAP, but it's like gen ed basically, that's one of the competency courses. They have to take a course with different competencies assigned to it, and one of those is called integrating skills through experience. If a course, there's a threshold that has to hit, if it's a service learning course or a course with a community engagement component in it that needs to be a certain threshold, it can count towards that requirement. That said, those students at Northeastern are like doing co-ops, they don't have trouble filling that requirement. So, given how deeply experiential the school is, I don't know how much it ends up mattering. That said, it's the legitimization of the courses as a form of integrating relevant skills to experience that we see as important. And tagging them in that way also allows us to work with institutional research to pull data. And we have them, so they're tagged in that way, which actually counts toward a degree requirement. But then further, because there are other forms of experiential education that count for that degree requirement, we also have them tagged with like a cosmetic tag that's just like with service learning. It doesn't count toward anything, but for the pulling data end, it helps us work with institutional research to be able to do that too.
Yeah, I've worked at institutions where it's like a 2 years learning requirement to do that, and where service learning is required for all of the graduates. Other questions? All right, so my last question, you work with a lot of universities. What are the ideal components of the partnership?
Dialogue. We work with another really well-established service learning program in a different institution, and we have a learning relationship. So it's really long-standing, but the way that program is designed, it really doesn't solicit feedback. This is the program. This is the way the program looks. I don't know internally what changes are made, but we partners. We don't have that kind of relationship. It still works. It's a wonderful relationship, but it doesn't. That conversation just doesn't happen in the same way. Certainly, talk to the staff person who give feedback. It's not solicited. It's not. There's no loop. And I think that's something that makes such a difference. That as a committee partner, I give feedback. My feedback may not be acted on, but something's being acted on because there's constant movement, there's constant change, there's like constant improvement. And I think that is that makes the time and the resources that we sink into this relationship, which are considerable, first of all, as a small organization, the return on investment is always good.
Is that conversations or is there some other activities?
It's formal and informal. I mean, there is formal methods that but these long-term relationships, and I think investment relationships, formal things of that run into on the street and by the way, this went really well. It's not so. And like I said, it's lodged somewhere.
I work with a lot of organisms, and I think the most important thing I find is just having that point person, where John and I, over the years, we worked out our teams. I just send him something at the end of the semester. We go, look, you're fine, I'm fine. We've already kind of worked out the kinks, but it's because of he kind of knows everything I'm trying to do, or he following the story. In each of my city of Boston after school program, Boston Beyond, there's a per point person that knows me specifically. It's kind of like my case manager. I think that is probably the most important thing, because I don't know all the resources that you have at your disposal. And if you don't know my complete context, then when I come with a problem, let's go here, let's do this. And then maybe also a little follow up, because I may not know. I may say, yeah, like I know my head. But then on the back end, just a few little pointers here or there to facilitate the process, but also go extreme long way. I think sometimes on my end, when I do it with my students, I find sometimes having this process kind of laid out and being able to take them is much easier for me rather than waiting for them to learn. And then I'm stuck because I have like 5 or 6 different things going at different speeds. So I like having a point person who knows what they're doing, and kind of is that looking to develop what they're doing as well, knowing all what they know as the research.
Let's give our panel a round of applause. If you're staying at the Renaissance, they have stoves and fridges, and you can take any food that's here for your midnight snack. Thank you all. Take some to the kids.
I hope this thing kept on overheating. The thing is overheating, so we have some bits, and I know I have some bits of it. And if it's on there, the thing was that the sound may not have been right until the end, but we'll see. Oh, I don't think you did it all the way, so but anyway, no problem. See, yeah.
Oh,
It's okay.
I recorded for 10 minutes.
No, but it's okay. That's what this is about. That's why I did it, because it was an experiment. That's why we didn't tell nobody. But check. Yeah, that is. I think this is the new thing I'm gonna do. Oh, thank you. I know she was working the phone.
Yeah, she was doing good.
She was working the phones over here.
You put makeup on me. She's supposed to like.
That's not gonna help.
Okay,
It's not
thank you.
gonna help. Yeah, but I'm going to take this back tomorrow. I just gotta take it back. Because it shouldn't be overheating. Like, at first I thought it was this, but then we removed that and that. So yeah, I'll return that. But yeah, this was that's what. So we're gonna use this next week on our thing. But yeah, but it'll be. That's why I wanted to practice. Okay, so this one is. You know the photographer, right? So you just latch, and then this already. This is just folds. That's fine. You just have to undo that. And then you got asking questions.
Yeah.
Let's do a full throw.
Yeah. Come visit you too. Take care.
Should I just remove the tables?
Whatever. I can just.
Thank you. And that weird little something, girl, with like a weird stuff for it. Email, I'll be.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what I have.
Yeah, no problem.
But
No problem. No, we appreciate you just reporting it. And you too. And I'm going like, please, like on the scene, thank you very much.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you. You know, I feel that was really funny.
Thanks for all the logistics. Printer doesn't work. I don't quite have it.
I'm gonna try to get what I can.
When I write,
So I asked her, can you do that? I don't know how to sound it. It's just the echo or it's anyway. It was just like I just put it up to test. So we'll send what we have. We'll send what we have. No, obviously not that pro, but we're working on it. No, because we're having our event next week at the school, so I wanted us to practice how before it gets. Thank you so much. Lovely. So these are our projects.
Yeah, this is so great.
So basically, this is the main one that they're working on. They're finding out great information. Like we found out one of my students lives in Maryland. There's a school similar close by, only 12 minutes away. And Washington's going all the way across. So but just to get the data, so they're doing that. And these are more from my Boston Public School kids, but also the team members. And it kind of tells stories of so that all it was Jewish before. So the ADL is supporting this project. This is about music and doing karaoke. This is about what I said about the girls. So just different stories to tell, and we put the data in these so that you can get like everyday people to be kind of interested in what we're doing because they like the Celtics or like whatever. So that's what they've been working on. They're doing a good job.
I mean, I'm not surprised.
It's them because I literally can't. They do a lot of it.
Yeah,
And it's four. There's like you guys like 4 students that. Like how many students do you have? Like 2 years of like people doing this. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you guys are getting like it seems like it's not that much, but by the time you guys add it up, it's a lot. You guys are doing great. Some of them. You know, one thing I'm very good. Like they reach out for like they need recommendation because it will be as if you work for me for 3 months, right? And I'll just put them. I always give very good recommendation. Oh, my students, they're all the best. They're the best ever, even if they weren't. But it's fun. You need a ride?
Sorry?
You need a ride?
No, I can take a bus.
Okay. You're very close anyway.
Sorry?
You're very close.
Yeah.
And to the bus stop as well.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it because you can see without somebody it would have been a complete disaster. But it wasn't a complete disaster, but it was at least it was very good.
The camera wasn't working, but I still have.
I'm literally gonna do the best ride tomorrow because I have the insurance thing where I'm just gonna get return this.